I've made videos covering some of my other favorite manhwa, and I am finally getting around to making a video for this one after it has just ended. I was still new to manhwa when I first picked it up, and I guess I still am new because I don't often decide to start a new one since, and I don't know if this is like blasphemous to say when I'm making a video about a manhwa, and I may be proven wrong once I do end up reading these other series, but based off of the name, the title, and the cover art for a lot of them, they seem to follow a very similar formula. I am over exaggerating, of course, because it's a storytelling medium, so there's gonna be all kinds of different stories, but I think it's pretty easy to name a few concepts that are very commonly found in these stories, these webtoons, manhwa. And saying this doesn't really help my point here, because this story also contains some of those concepts, but they are utilized in a way that leads back to the core of this story, because the greatest estate developer is one of the funniest stories I have ever read. A quick synopsis first: it's a Korean manhwa or web novel webtoon that follows someone called Kim Soo-ho, a university student constantly stressed out about money, the cost of living basically, who wakes up in another world, a medieval fantasy. Yes, it is an isekai. That's the first one of those common concepts I was talking about. This is the world of a novel that he just finished reading, and he awakes in the body of a noble called Lloyd Frontera, and it is instantly clear that this person whose body he is now inhabiting is the bane of this place's existence. This guy is a horrible person, a spoiled, self-indulgent, incompetent piece of crap who has no talent, has no one's respect, but with the struggles Kim Soo-ho has faced in the past, he does not wallow in self-pity. He's not going to coast and get his way as the son of a noble, the same way that the real Lloyd Frontera was doing. He has plans, big plans, to turn his life around with the knowledge and skills he has retained from his past. So with that very limited information, this basic blueprint of the plot, it does sound ridiculously generic. But here is the thing: he does not become a mage who can cast earth-shaking spells with a singular thought. He does not become a master swordsman who wields his blade with ease. We leave that to the real protagonist of this story. No, because instead he wields a shovel, because in his original world, Earth, you may or may not have heard of it, he was a civil engineering student, and those are the skills he is bringing to the table to turn things around, hence the name The Greatest Estate Developer. There will be mild spoilers, but no mention of any major plot points from this point onwards. So that name, Greatest Estate Developer, was the very thing that put me off reading it when I first discovered it. I fell right into the trap. Estate Developer, why would I want to read a story with that as its main premise? It sounds boring. I want to read real manhwa or webtoons like The Beginning After the End or Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, but funnily enough, the only thing that did convince me to finally read it was the fact that on the site where I used to read my manhwa and webtoons, Greatest Estate Developer had a higher rating than either of those two series, and even having not read very many manhwa, I knew that those two are seen as two of the best, most popular, so this other story must be doing something right if it's even outdoing those two giants of the game, you know. So as for the actual narrative, the main character usually has something that helps him, gives them a step up, like Jinwoo's shadow abilities and potential to grow as a hunter, Arthur's experience as a king, Soo-ho, now Lloyd, has his studies, and his studies are essentially his magecraft, because introducing modern engineering to a medieval world is going to be akin to magic. His achievements aren't defeating a level 50 troll, instead it's building heated flooring. He is not going to level mountains, but he will level the land for some more building space. But there's no getting around it. The main selling point for this story is the comedy. This man Soo-ho is not a bad person, nowhere near as bad as his predecessor, I guess, but he is not an angel either, because in the real world, in civil engineering in this case, there is a give and take. He can't make a new house appear out of thin air. You need the resources, you need the time, you need the manpower. You need to write up a contract for both parties, but no one in this world has any idea what this guy is doing. So it's like he is a professional scam artist, because at the end of the day he does get the job done, but it is not without some subtle coaxing and gaslighting to get the work going. While I say subtle, it's not like the people around him can't see that he is scheming something, because it gets to a point where he becomes something straight out of hell with with the way he's going about doing things. He is either a mad genius to them or just straight mad. And on top of that, we have Javier, the original protagonist of this story but deuteragonist in Kim Soo-ho, now Lloyd Frontera's story. He is like a mouthpiece for the reader in the sense he is not going to miss a beat when it comes to picking up Lloyd's schemes. He sees right through him like a crystal glass and calls him out at every opportunity. And as the OG main character, there isn't really going to be a rebuttal because outside of his civil engineering knowledge, Javier is just better than Lloyd in every single way. Unapologetically so as well, which makes the dynamic so entertaining to read. It's like true friends playing off of each other, the way they throw insults back and forth. Everyone else knows Javier is the much better man as well, so whenever they meet someone new, they think Lloyd's the special kid Javier brought along with him out of the goodness of his heart. And this isn't to say that he is a pure soul. This man revels in Lloyd's failures and frustration. So back to Lloyd, his goals are selfish. He just wants the money that comes after the work so he can live a comfortable, stress-free, guilt-free life, but it just so happens that he is so good at what he does that it has the complete opposite effect. It just so happens his goals end up aligning with that of the territory and beyond, so it arguably makes his life even more stressful because this guy metaphorically and literally cannot catch a break. And like how any good comedy should be able to do, this story makes his suffering hilarious. He tries to play the fool to get out of his work, but the main sidecast see right through it. He is not fooling anybody. He is loud-mouthed, unfiltered, sarcastic, and that is my kind of character. But most of all, he is utterly shameless. If it means he will get his way, he will do what needs to be done, and the only reason this guy isn't a court jester or something is because of his knowledge. Like with every action he takes outside of his work, everyone's opinion of him sinks lower and lower. It borders on pathetic sometimes, but the laughs overpower the second-hand embarrassment, thankfully. And I also want to say this, that the thing with comedy is, and I hope this is relatable, otherwise I sound really weird, but for me, and I'm sure many others, in the later stages of school, like 14, 15 years old and above, it was a period in time where for whatever reason the only thing that people found funny were jokes with a lot of swearing or a lot of sexual references, like edgy teenage humor. They think they're grown up now, so it's all about swearing and sex. That's all people found funny for some reason, at least for the boys, which was really dumb. It's kind of a similar situation in mainstream media as well, like the biggest content creators or movies, for example Deadpool, and I can't think of any others. And that kind of humor can be really funny, but there's so much more to comedy than that. For example, my uncles grew up watching old school Charlie Chaplin silent movies, and that slapstick stuff they find hilarious. And bringing it back to the Greatest Estate Developer, it has so many different kinds of humor, which is part of the reason why it's so good. And one of the main aspects of this that I still haven't mentioned comes with the art and art style. Like most webtoons, the art is really good. Of course, there are entire studio teams working on them, but even so, they would have still had to put in a ton of effort to make it look as good as it does. But beyond that is the way the art style exaggerates Lloyd's facial expressions to match his scheming, his machinations, which is the best thing ever. And it leads back to what I was saying before. Everyone can see this. He's not hiding his face as he makes these expressions. He's doing it openly to try and get his way, and add this to the other stuff of him gaslighting and manipulating. You wouldn't blame the people for thinking he is some kind of villain even as he helps them. And I always imagine when a character makes such exaggerated faces that from our point of view this is just the stylized face of a fictional character. It's a drawing, but in universe this is obviously how the people look. So him making a face like this would be nothing short of horrifying. Like imagine a real person distorting their face so much to the point where this is the result. That is what they are seeing, straight up body horror. However, even with the comedy being the main reason this story is so loved, it's not just comedy, there is more to it. The struggle that Lloyd faces, the relationships between the characters, which the comedy can serve as a vehicle for. Take the dynamic between Lloyd and Javier, which I was discussing before. It touches on inequality, corruption, the responsibilities of leadership. I'm not saying that the story is so deep that you will need to take notes just to keep up, and I am not saying that it is so emotional that it will feel like it's ripping at your heart and soul, but it doesn't need to be. The story knows what it is and is that without shame, and that is enough. It has ended now with the release of chapter 210 this past week, but there still is more to come with some side stories which didn't fit into the main plot, so we're not leaving just yet. And all in all, it really is just so much fun, and there is no reason I think not to read it.